I'm Carol Cunningham-Sigman, and I'm going to talk about my choreographic process at First Wednesday noon. Thank you all for coming. Today I thought it would be kind of fun to share some of my choreographic interests over the last 15 years. And it's been pretty primarily my interest has been human or emotional connectivity and emotion between human and human, but a lot about human and inanimate objects. So I have collaborated with many different artists over the years, and I've collaborated with the Envision Center and technologists in the Envision Center over in Stewart Center on real-time interactive motion capture technology. And then that extended also to work I've done with Fabian, and I've also done some collaboration work with Petronio Bandito with his visuals. And then after that, I was interested in collaborating with Bunraku style puppets, another inanimate object, and then of course human to human. And I thought it might be a nice thing to start out with the elements of dance that we use in our choreographic process. So for me, well, I think we might need the light a little bit for this. So for choreography, our medium is the body, and we manipulate space, time, and energy to make movement phrases and then to fill the space. And I thought I'd let you know how I personally start my choreography. And I'll have an inspiration, I'll have a theme of some sort, but for today's purpose, I'm just going to pretend I don't have a theme. And I have pre-taught these two lovely dancers, Gianna and Sarah, who have been in my work. And I'll teach my dancers a phrase. And so would you mind wait till the lights come up? And you can begin when you feel it is time, without hitting anyone or anything. Okay, go. Thank you. All right. So that would be day one of rehearsal, and then, well, there would be more than that. And then I might, then I start to manipulate that. And since we're talking about human emotional interaction, the next step might be, now how can we make this phrase, how can you connect as a human being? And so the dancers would spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and they would pick and choose the movements from that phrase, and not necessarily in that order, but they would choose the movements that spoke to them, and then they would connect the two phrases that they made to connect with each other. So let's just see what you came up with. So you start to see they were looking at each other, and then I would take, I'd stand back and I'd say, well, how can we phrase that? How can we have suspended moments? How can we shrink it? How can we expand it? Using these different elements of time. And then following lessons or following rehearsals would be, now how can we make that travel through space? How can we make that phrase be performed with a different base of support other than your feet? So tons of manipulation. Finally, you structure a work and you have a piece. Because time is so short, we're going to move on to how I worked with inanimate objects. So thank you so much. we can go ahead and turn out the lights. So I just want to back up a minute. I also collaborated with Luann Lamy, I know, with her artwork. I think she's here too. Yep, yes. So I'm so sorry. So I was really interested, well, how can a graphic image become alive? And how can live dancers interact with a graphic? This is very dated. And also I was interested in immersive environments, a 3D sense. And so at the Envision Center, they had an exoskeleton. We have a dancer up here with the exoskeleton. The data of her movements transferred to the graphic image. And then I had dancers in the space, this is a close-up, interacting with the image. And Renee, you happen to be in this work.
I did.
Yeah, oh good. So just, and it took a huge team, at least 5 grad students and faculty in the School of Technology behind the scenes to make all of this stuff work. This is way before current technology. And then we use 3 screens in different depths to give the stage space and environment. So I'm going to just show you a quick clip of this work. And so I'll talk a little bit about how I felt I could bring the inanimate object alive. But basically, it was through different lab-on efforts, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So here's a video of, oops, yes. Fabian with the Isadora software, and he's doing it all on his laptop with us. So next, going, just really enjoying immersion, the dancer interfacing with its environment and actually making the environment happen. The Envision Center, well actually in conjunction with Visual and Performing Arts, purchased a new motion capture system. So there are infrared lights on the stage. The dancer can only perform in a small space. The cameras pick up the data from the dancer moving, goes to the computer. The data is transformed into graphics, computer graphics. And so in this case, there was a projection from the balcony forward on a scrum, and there was a projection from the back scrum, from the backspace. So the dancer, and Renee, you were in this too. And so she's totally immersed in the system. And we worked with Rick Thomas, and he created a soundscape. And so the movements that Renee did, actually jumping or whatnot, would create the score. But the choreography was definitely choreographed. It wasn't improvised at all. So I don't have a sample of that. That was very fun. Computer crashed a lot, but we moved forward. Then I was also interested in the 3D cave at the Envision Center. And this might not look that exciting, but in the Envision Center, the audience members can wear 3D glasses. And so not only are the movers responding to the 3D objects around them, the audience is also seeing the dancer immersed inside of this magical world. Here's a picture of the motion capture system. And we even took this further. Ooh, there was a whole screen here, and there were grids, and we were communicating with artists from all over the world, and they would input their work, and that would influence our performer. We would influence their performer, and the people in the audience could watch this really cool kind of collaboration across the world. Next, well, what happened is that we weren't able to use the Envision Center anymore because their policy changed. So they were only accepting projects that were funded by huge grants, and we don't have that kind of money. So I turned to another inanimate object that Joel Ebarb inspired me to work on, and that was a puppet. So my next project was a Banraku puppet, and I'll just show you a little sample. So you'll notice the puppet can convey emotions as well, and there can be a dialogue between the dancer and this inanimate object. If you don't know, Banraku puppets, you see the actors moving the puppet, and you just sort of forget about them. And it took quite a team of dancers to manipulate the puppets. I would just pull out one dancer at a time, and they would have different solos with the puppet. And so I was still really inspired to work with Joel, and he was willing to design another puppet, a larger puppet that could be seen on the stage in the Hanson Theater. So he built, well, you'll see it, Mary Beth. Mary Beth is my wonderful colleague, and she is the puppeteer for this work. And so we continued to, it's a different kind of Banraku puppet. It's one person operating, and so we went on to research how we were going to create emotional expression with this inanimate guy. So I talked about the Laban efforts. So this is the most perfect way, I believe, to bring inanimate objects alive. And of course we do that with dancers as well. So we thought we'd give you a quick sampling of this. And the first thing, to float. So, Mary Beth, would you just show? And when we float, that kind of gives us a feeling of that puppet or that individual having a sense of good nature, kind of a dreaminess and such. Then the next effort we have listed is dab, and dab could convey sensitivity and playfulness as well. So if I say I'm a dancer and I'm doing something, that kind of thing. And so we would spend time in the dance studio trying to figure out what movements the dancer could do in response. The next effort is to ring, which could imply suffering, anguish, twisting kind of actions, that kind of thing. And of course, if we were in the black, you'll see the video in a moment. You don't see Mary Beth as much as you do here. Okay, I don't mean it. Okay, and then pressing could illustrate power. So the dancer might push up against it, and then the puppet might just push me, or the puppet, I might be dancing and the puppet like push me, that kind of thing. And then another effort we played with was slash, which portrays wild energy, being wild and crazy, pretty fun. And then if we wanted to perhaps express aggression, we would have thrust, which is a very bound sort of effort. It's very direct. And then that also could even portray joy, like, yeah. And then glide, effort that portrays harmony or even slyness, sneakiness. Nice, very well. And then last, nervousness. Nervousness is kind of a flicky effort, and it's the hardest to do with this. And flicking with, yeah. It's a very hard puppet to manipulate. It's been a couple years since I worked with him. But, and I love, thank you, Rueff, I love the design. Joel Ebarb made that puppet out of Target garbage bags. And so I have, now that you've seen the efforts, you can see how I worked well with Mary Beth and her inventions using the efforts, and then I choreographed the dance around the efforts. And this piece was called Uncanny Alley. It was performed in Hanson Theater. It's about 6 minutes long, and then that'll be it. the narrative for Uncanny Alley was the curiosity. The puppet was curious about the kids were curious about the puppet, they finally feel comfortable with each other, so comfortable that the kids go off and leave the puppet all by themselves. So, any questions? Thank you so much.